Hello everybody and welcome to the first video on the channel. Today we are going to be playing the new Car Mechanic Simulator 2021. As you can see, I'm standing here in front of two cars. One of them we will be doing in this video. Not sure which one yet. We have this one or this one. Both of them need a lot of work, but I think it'd be kind of cool to do a big, like, Supercharged El Camino, or a car that very strongly represents a Crown Vic. Which one? First thing I gotta do is look at a couple of edition things here. I don't know if this does anything to just skip these ones. I really don't know. Huh, never mind. Guess I can't really do too much there. Let's just empty out my inventory. This way here we have a clean slate to start with. And let's do the El Camino. And then the other one we will do in a separate video. So I like to start off by getting the car in the shop, taking everything off of it, getting the body done and fixed up, and then moving on to engine, transmission, suspension work, all of that. This way here the body's done, and you can see what it will look like before you're actually done. Now, I know I just took all the body parts off, but let's see how much this thing's worth right now. So 5,100, I would assume that with the body parts on, it wouldn't be too much more. So let's get everything done on it, and then we'll see where we're at from there. So this thing has already a supercharged 2-carb V8 in it. And I think we're going to keep that. We're just going to do a ton of performance parts to it and see what we can get into on this thing. So let's start ripping off the suspension, and then we can move to doing the engine and engine work, and then go from there. So we'll clear out the entire underside of the car, and then we can put everything back together, make everything brand new. Really cool things that came out within this new game. I played Car Mechanic Sim 15 and Car Mechanic Sim 18 for a long time, and there's a lot of cool things in this game that I didn't know, that I didn't even pay attention to getting into it, like the cool rusted bolt thing that they have in this. I'll have to show you that when we come across another one. But let's see, take some of these U-joints off. So these bolts are rusted, so you actually have to spray them to get them off, which is awesome. Makes you kind of slow down a little bit when you're taking stuff apart. Another thing I realized, which I'll actually show you right now, is that in here, if you go to the electronic shop, which I separated, there's glow plugs. Glow plugs are for a diesel engine, and I haven't ran into a diesel in this game. Now, I have a modded one in that I haven't ran into, but I can't seem to find anything stating that there's one in the stock game. So why would they have that? Unless there's an add-on coming, or an update coming that adds one, I don't really know why they would have it. Over here you guys can see the rusted bolt again. Now let's just take this other side off real quick. And then once the entire car, the underside of the car is done, we can move into pulling the engine out and then go get this thing off to paint. Get all the bodywork fixed up. They added a lot of cool stuff to this game, though. They made it so that it's not just, like, the body's not just rusted. Now you can get, like, dents and stuff in them. All the tuning abilities that you, in Car Mechanic Sim 18, to put tune parts on the cars, you had to buy an add-on. This is in the stock game. It really is pretty cool. There's still things, even in this game, that I don't completely understand. Like, they have air suspension in the shop for the game, but I don't know of a car that has one. So if you guys know of a car that has one, let me know, because I would love to do that. But they added a ton of new engines and parts and just absolutely everything to this game to like the engine that you see in that Crown Vic outside is a different type of V8. It's not like this type of V8, but it's also not like the newer type of V8s that were in the old game. Even though there are still those, there's so much stuff to do now, and there's so many different variations of cars and jobs and everything that I swear, like, you really cannot get bored in this game. And I would highly recommend, like, this game just came out, and it's like, I think it's like 20 bucks or something. Like, this is a great game if you want to just kind of mess around and work on stuff. But let's get everything out from under here. Flip over to the other side. The other thing you can do, and I learned this, and I don't know if it was in the old games or not because I never even did it. I've only ever painted like wheels and stuff, but in this game, you can actually paint like springs and I believe like cross members and stuff. I don't exactly know why you would, but you can, I think. If I saw it right when I was playing, to get up to the point where I could actually like afford to do cars like this and do videos. This way here, it wasn't just me grinding out jobs on these videos, but I believe you can like paint suspension parts now. Not 100% sure if you can paint engine pieces. I'll have to look into that. We'll have to check that in this video, actually. We'll see if we can paint some engine parts on this engine. Make it stick out a little bit more. So, debating whether or not I should use this block and try and fix it, which they also made everything so much more, I guess you could say, realistic. Like, you do the same thing for mounting wheels and tires, but like for balancing them, you actually have to balance them. I'll show you guys that later in the video. For fixing stuff, you have to physically be involved in it. You can't just continuously click return to have everything be fixed. There's a lot of things in this game. They made almost like a lot more work on the user. It just kind of takes an extra second to do everything. But they made it a lot more interesting at that. As you guys can see, this shop is, I believe, fully upgraded. We gotta rip the engine out of this thing, but I might as well take you for a tour around the shops. We have two huge garage bays. All of this, that's not the workbench. You walk over here, there's a bunch of like decoration type crap. There's the phone. Now usually the garage would stop-ish right here. And then there's a big school bus in here when you first go into the game. It's really weird. Oil drain, computer, all this, toolboxes, the welder. The welder comes as an add-on, like so you have to buy the welder, but you don't actually have to upgrade your shop to get it, which is awesome. And then here's the mounting and balancing machines. And then you walk into this room. This is also like an add-on room. And there's your engine stand. You walk through these doors, and you have your warehouse space, which is also an add-on. So none of this stuff really comes like in the factory part. And then you have the paint booth, the dyno, or the factory, or the test path. In here you have the workbench, the repair bench, whatever. And then over here, you have the dyno and the car wash. So yes, you can actually wash cars in this game. You can detail the insides. There's so much cool stuff. They also added like a ton of really weird things like fuse boxes and fuses and all this other stuff to make the game like that much more realistic, you could say. It makes the game a little bit more interesting when you're putting something together. It costs more to do cars. There's nothing in here. See, this is a fuse box. This is one of the fuse boxes they have. So you gotta take all the fuses out. You run into jobs where it's like the car won't start and there's 3 fuses that are bad and it's like, what? Why would that be like that? But that's part of the new game. So let's weld this thing. Get the body back in pristine shape. And then let's put some cool parts on this thing. So this is a Bolt Atlanta. So we are going to do a custom hood. I don't know if you can do a custom hood on this thing. Because I would like to. Because then it wouldn't have the thing for the engine just sticking out of the stock hood. I don't even know if this car will take a hood because it's a factory supercharged V8. I really don't know. I guess I'll have to wait and see when we get there. Let's see. Yeah, no, so this car actually doesn't take a hood. That makes sense. I don't really understand why they wouldn't have the hood and then like a extra hood that has a hole for it. I don't really get it. I think it was the same way in the old game. I'm not sure though. Correct me if I'm wrong. So now we're just gonna move around in this thing. So like all this stuff in the old game, you'd have to take off with like a welder or something, or when you painted it, it would come off, whatever. Now that is not the one I wanted to put on. Now you go in and you know, you have to go and you have to wash it and do all this other stuff, and it's actually really, really cool, all this stuff they added to this game in these games, and how much more realistic. That is not what I wanted. How much more realistic they're making them. Move the car to car wash, and now we can wash it. I can actually see it getting washed, and you can watch all the body panels getting cleaner. So as you guys see, this car's a nice, beautiful red color. I think we'll keep it that way, and then detail the inside, which is going to have to get redone anyway, but might as well clean it up. So now we move the car to the paint booth, which is over here, and now we can paint the car its factory color, and then you can go through and you can change all the different stuff in the paint. Obviously, you have to buy all this different type of stuff. This thing would look awesome with some racing stripes down it, I think. Like, that would look pretty cool. Just because it doesn't have a hood, it's not like overly excessive, it's just there. There's only 4 liveries, and I don't really understand why. So should I do black or white stripes? I kind of like the black. So now that that's painted, we can get out of this, and we can move this thing back to the lifter. And now we can work on the engine, the transmission, the suspension, everything. Now this thing's back on the lifter with nothing on it. This is the coolest thing, is we can actually move the car around. Almost like a rolling chassis without any suspension. It's awesome. The other thing we can do is we can see the car status now. This thing's worth $14,000. If you guys remember, it was worth about $5,100 pre-welding, pre-paint, and it still had everything on it. So that's a huge price jump. Really curious to know how much this thing's going to go for at the end of this. Now, I know this was in the old game where you could see everything, but this, it's a completely different menu type thing. So let's do the engine first, and we're just going to build a whole new engine, because really it's not even worth it trying to fix the other one. So it's a V8 2-carb supercharged. So now we have to go through and we're going to buy performance parts for, so we need like a performance alternator, performance camshafts, that is not the right one, performance camshafts, 2 performance carburetors, go to engine. We're not going to do anything else but the engine right now. And then we're going to do 2 performance heads for this thing. This thing should make like 1,000 horsepower if everything goes how it should. Then we need 2 exhaust manifolds, a fuel filter, a fuel pump. We need an ignition coil B, a distributor, a cap, and a rotor. Obviously some wires. I don't understand why they won't let you buy a supercharger intake or a supercharger in the performance shop. You can buy everything else but that stuff. It doesn't make sense to me. So now we need some spark plugs, and that's all we need from that section. Now we're going to go to the main shop, and we're going to buy everything else that we need for this build. We need an air scoop. We're going to need a cam gear. We already have the carburetors. We're going to need 2 clip Bs. We're going to need a crankshaft, which is this one. We're going to need a crankshaft pulley. We're going to need a new block. We're going to need some covers. A, B. We're going to need to grab a fuel tank. What else do we need? What else do we need? Oil filter. I've played these games for so long that I know everything that goes into these engines. None of the other ones, just these ones. 8 piston rings, a new radiator fan, 16 rocker arms, 8 rod caps. I love the engines that have these rocker arm assemblies. Awesome. Don't know why the game doesn't go to that for everything. It would be amazing. But they won't do that. Make it too easy for people like me. Now we need a serpentine belt A for an OHV. We need a serpentine belt B for an OHV. And then we need a supercharged serpentine belt. Make it absolutely as difficult as possible. Cool. 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 Now we need a timing belt or a timing chain, timing cover, 16 valve push rods, that's 17, and a water pump. Cool. So now we can actually put this entire engine, I believe, together just by buying all of those parts. So camshaft, crankshaft, fuel filter, power steering pump, and I will speed this along so that you guys don't have to watch me put this entire engine together, especially not the 32 valve push rods and rockers and everything, because that cannot possibly be that enjoyable to watch. But let's see how this goes, putting all this together. I will see you guys in a couple minutes. This is the least fun part of building one of these engines, is putting all of these push rods in. It's absolutely terrible. I remember it being so much worse in the last game, like it took longer or something. Maybe I've just grown really patient. Highly doubt that. cutoff push rods have been fully put in. Just going to screw on this cap, put in spark plugs, and then this entire side of the engine will be done. Now we can put the supercharger on, and the engine will be almost finished. Then we just got to flip it up and do the bottom side, oil pan, crankshaft caps, all of that good stuff. Which, that pretty much finishes up the entire engine for this thing. Crazy to think that it doesn't take that long to put an entire engine together. I mean, I'm sure it takes a heck of a lot longer in real life, but for this game, that is not bad. It makes you want to do it instead of almost like not wanting to play the game because of how long it takes to do this. Makes it more fun. Even after doing it 10, 15, 20 times, it still is somewhat fun. I really do like the way that this looks without anything on top of those. But it barks at me if I don't put the thing on top. And I don't understand why. It looks cool without it. So now we just gotta put the fan up front, and then all of the crankshaft caps and the piston rod caps on this thing. So here's another tedious process. It's putting every single one of these caps on. All of this has to get done, and then we can actually work back, go over to the engine, fill out the entire engine bay, put the transmission. I didn't buy any crankshaft caps. That's special of me. Do the entire engine, pretty much put the entire engine, transmission, all that together, and then we can worry about the suspension. And then at the very, very end of the video, throw some nice new fresh wheels and tires on this thing and see how much it's worth. I mean, this thing should be worth a pretty good chunk of change, judging by the fact that we just put probably $20,000 into just the engine. In-game money, that is. Or $15,000. I really gotta start paying attention to how much I spend on one of these so I actually know how much I'm getting back from it. But there's a lot of really cool cars in this that you can buy and sell and actually make a really good amount of money on them. Like the pickup trucks that are in this, I bought one at auction for like 80 grand and I sold it for 120 and didn't even do anything on it. It's why those particular vehicles go for so much, I don't understand, but they just do in this game. So that's the entire engine. So let's go and put the entire engine bay together, and we need battery, brake servo, all this good stuff. So like we need power steering reservoirs now, we need windshield washer reservoirs, we need a coolant reservoir if it's a new coolant tank style thing. It's absolutely amazing all the cool stuff that they've done to this game. Don't get me wrong, it also makes the job somewhat tedious. And it makes it a little bit more expensive to finish up a car. Now, I personally have gone to the extent of buying way more fuses than I know I'm going to need. Because there's so many times that you'll go to put the fuses on and it needs more than you have. And it's really irritating. So if you just buy more up front, you don't have to worry about it. So now we put the reservoirs in, put everything in here together, and then we can drop the engine in. We'll hop under this thing, put some exhaust on her, and then finally, by finally I mean wait till the last minute to do the final last bit, which is the suspension and all of that good stuff. So as you guys can see, like we actually need fuses in this, and it's absolutely awesome how they've put this type of thing in. Hoping, there we go. So now everything in the engine bay is pretty much done. All we need now is to drop the engine in her, so we can move the equipment over to the lifter. Go grab the engine off of the crate, or the stand. Take engine off. Don't remember how to get out. There we go. Install new engine. Everything at 100%. Install that big engine. And now we can just lift this thing up, do tranny and exhaust, and see what we can do to this thing. So, only other thing I need is the exhaust, or the transmission stuff. In the exhaust, we're gonna need two mids, and the two rears are actually in a different spot. Then we're going to need a, nope, that is not the right gearbox. Then we're going to need a gearbox for this thing. We're also going to grab a starter. We're going to need a drive shaft, as well as a clutch bearing. And we're going to need a rear muffler or two for this thing. So now we can put all of that, that is not what I wanted, all of that together. And these are, what front sections? Front section C, so we just got to buy those real quick. And then we can move on to suspension. I have to get that done. And then this build is pretty much going to be just about done with at that point. Because we already dialed up the entire thing. Now we just got to get it all functional. But, I gotta say, they have made this. Now, I haven't used any modded cars. I have one modded engine in the game, but I haven't used any modded cars. So, I'm really wondering if modders have gotten better, or if the game has fixed the issues that we used to have with mods, with things not lining up. But I don't really know, because I haven't done it yet. So there we go. We can put our performance exhaust on here. And now we can just run back here, throw the fuel tank in. And just about the entirety of the drivetrain is done. So now we get to work on suspension. So now we're going to buy everything for the rear suspension because, in my opinion, the rear suspension is significantly easier. Just a couple quick bolts and you're done. So we're going to need 2 leaf springs, we're going to need 2 plates, 4 bolts, a leaf spring rear axle. That is not the cover we need 2 housing Bs, we need 2 shock absorber Bs, we need 4 small rubber bushings, 2 solid axles, and 2 wheel hub 4s. Then we're going to need to grab a couple of brake shoes, a couple of drum cylinders, a couple of drums, and then the entirety of the rear suspension is just about done with at that point. So then we can put the drive shaft in, and hey, maybe we won't even do the front suspension. Oh god. So now we just got to put all of this good stuff that we just bought onto this car and see at the very end, before we put wheels and tires on this thing, what it's worth, and then a final value once the wheels and tires are on it. Or we wait until the wheels and tires are on it, get a final value then. It's a good question. Also, trying to decide what we should run for wheels and tires. I think we're going to do the classic 5-spoke wheel Atlantas, because I believe that's what we're on this thing's factory. But we'll do some black wheels on this beautiful red paint. See how it looks. So now that that side's done, flip over to the other one. And then we're done with the rear suspension, because god, I wish the front suspension could be as simple as the rears are. And then you've got those amazing independent rear ends that take longer than the front do. It's crazy, all this stuff that they manage to shove in the back of a car. And the fact that this game imitates it is even better. So now we can stick all of these parts on. Throw the drive shaft in, because while we're back here we might as well do it. Then work our way to the front to finish up exactly what we gotta do. So, let's see how this goes. Throw the drive shaft in. Why was this thing running vintage tires? It's kind of weird. Drive shaft in. Mates up beautifully to that gorgeous transmission. And now we need a crossmember E. We need a front sway bar B. And I believe we're going to need some knuckle housing C's. Yes, we are. Cool. So tablet, suspension. We're going to need 2 bottom suspension arm A's. 2 wishbone shock absorbers. 2 of those. Scrolling down. 2 of those. 2 of those. 2 of those. I think it was an E. 1 of those. 2 of those. 2 of those. 2 of those, and scroll down a little bit more. We're going to need about probably 10 to 15 rubber bushings. I'll grab a couple small ones just in case, because I don't remember what we need up front. 2 Bs, 2 uppers, and a couple wheel bearing and caps. Now we're just going to need a couple of brake parts, disc ventilated, and some pads. Now, we just have to go put these things together over here. And the suspension is almost done as soon as we get this done. It's going to be a good day. And maybe at the end of the video, we'll take this thing for a little spin. We'll throw it on the dyno. See what kind of number she's pulling. I know this thing sits at like 350, 400 horse stock. So what will she pull tuned like she is? We also threw a custom gearbox in this thing, meaning that if we want to do some gearbox tuning, which I absolutely suck at, we can do that. I tend not to mess around with gearbox tuning, though. I don't really know why I spend the extra money on the custom gearboxes, but I tend not to mess around with the custom tuning because I am really not that good at it. So we got a couple more parts to throw on this side, and then we can move to the other. And we just gotta sell this thing to someone. Sadly, we cannot tow, even though there is that tow truck outside. I'll show you guys that at the end of the video if you didn't see it in the beginning. There's that awesome old tow truck out front, but we still can't tow anything in this game, and we still can't drive around freely, which really sucks. They should add that, is just driving around freely like you would in a normal game. I mean, you don't have to make it like GTA where you can just drive for hours and hours and hours, but like have the ability to. Would make it so much more enjoyable, especially for like me, where I would just go and just cruise around every so often, chill out, take the cars that I built just for a nice cruise, not actually have to take the like speed track or something. Just, they also, cool thing with this game is they added one feature that every single game in the past has been missing, which is controller support for PC. So now if you have a controller, whether it's an Xbox controller or something connected to your PC that you're playing this game on, you now can finally drive the cars that you build with a controller. Also, in the next video, if you guys would like me to, I can run you down all of the specs of the computer I'm playing this game on. Because this game and involving the last game is also, they were both like incredibly CPU and graphics card needing. So let's see how much this thing. Actually, you know what? No. Let's see what size tires we had on this, so that we can buy new ones. 215/70 R15s. So we're gonna run. I think we're gonna run 16s instead of 15s, just because gives it a little bit more wheel, a little less sidewall. But it won't make that much of a difference. We're like running 18s will make a massive difference to the look of this car. But we need some rim Atlantas, wherever those would be. Probably passed them already. There we go. So we need 4 16s. And then we need, what size tire? 215/70 R15s. So we're going to do 235/60 R16. And 235/65 R16. Let's see how those look. We'll just mount and balance one real quick. So it gives a little more width with the amount of power I think it's going to be pushing. These look like massive tires. Like they're tiny wheels, massive tires. So here you guys can see the new balancing thing, where you actually have to physically balance the tire, which is absolutely awesome. It makes you so much more involved in the physical game than you were in the old game. So let's see, how does this thing look? Perfect. That's perfect. Absolutely awesome. So now we can mount all these 3 other wheels and tires, and then balance all of them. Get the whole car set up, pump it full of fluids, and get this car out of here on the dyno. Then we actually gotta pull it out of the shop and do a bunch of interior stuff to it. And by a bunch, I mean new seats. Still haven't made it, like, truly interesting to do the interior. It's kind of a last minute thing that you just spend like $1,000 on. It doesn't really do too much of the value of the car, but I'm sure everything's coming with time. They gotta do one thing at a time with the amount of changes that they made to this game, because this game is super different than the old one. And I mean, the old game, you used to have to be certain levels to get certain things, and you don't anymore. If you make the amount of money that you need to, you can be a level 10 and get everything. I believe the junkyard unlocked at like level 5 or level 10 or something, which is awesome, because then you can actually start working on cars, like just fixing up the engines in them and selling them, which will bring you in a good amount of profit. Obviously depending on the car that you're working on, but you know, you can get like the old Shelby convertible type looking things and buy them for, like, if you find one for like 10, 15k, put 20k into it and turn around and sell it for over 100, because they go for ridiculous money in this game. But that's the car, and this thing looks absolutely awesome. So let's get some fluids in it. So we got to do oil, power steering, coolant, and windshield washer and brake. So there's a ton of new fluids that have to be pumped into these cars. And they have all this new stuff, and they made it so much more realistic, except there's still no radiator hoses, no fuel lines, no brake lines, no nothing. I mean, at least put them in, like, just have them there. Don't even have us use them. They're just there. Be awesome. That would make it, like, perfect. And, like, carts to roll the bodies around on and everything. Be awesome. And, like, a forklift to move the engine. No, they can't do that much to the game, but that would be pretty sick. They could. This game is actually not, like, you would think by the title of it, it wouldn't actually be that much fun to play, but it is. It's a pretty interesting game to play. Especially if you like working on cars. And it's a great game to play. So now that we got all the fluids in this thing, we can move it outside. And I don't know what just happened to the other car. I think it went into the shop, which we're not going to put that in the shop right now. We're going to move this back out to the entrance, because why not? Now we just got to do a little bit of interior stuff. So we need a new seat and I believe a new steering wheel. So 2 new seats and a steering wheel. Tablet, home, interior shop. We need 2 new seats and a steering wheel. Let's see if we can find some specifically for this car. I don't think there are any, but there very well could be. Oh yeah, there are. Okay, 2 avalanches, and then we need a very, very specific steering wheel, the Atlanta steering wheel. So we just walk over here, we do interior assemble, put some new seats in her, and new steering wheel, and then we're gonna hop in this thing and see how she sounds. Awesome. So let's go give this thing one final quick interior detail. I don't know why I do this, but I've done it for every single car I've had come through this shop. I've done a final interior detail right before we get rid of it. But I actually did this in the wrong order, because I usually take it to the dyno first. So, to the dyno. Let's see what she pulls. So, factory power on this thing is 537 off of this 2-carb supercharged. Let's see what she'll pull. Sounds absolutely awesome. 997 horsepower, just shy of 1,000. And wow, 1,851 Newton meters of torque. That's absolutely crazy. But this thing, let's take it for a quick, small little ride on the test track. But first, let's see what she's worth. 80,000. That's a great profit. Judging by the fact that we started and it was 5,100. So 80,000. Before we take it for a ride, let's show you guys the new repair table system because it's really weird. So you have to start repairing, and then you have to click when it has the green thing, and that's how you repair stuff. It's really weird. It's really odd, but it works. If you fall on the red, though, it destroys it, and if you fall on the gray, it gives you another chance. So, see, it destroyed it. But it's a interesting system that, I mean, it's kind of cool, so kind of weird. But I mean, especially if you go up in level to get it so that you have more green on the spectrum. I don't know if that's 100% how it works, but I would think it would be. You just keep going until you have a lot of green on the spectrum. Just keep upgrading and upgrading and upgrading, and then eventually you have to repair it. Like, you can't just destroy it anymore, or you might have a very small chance. Now, I don't really know if this actually helps in making you more money when you sell stuff. So let's see. There's also some tools I don't even have in this game, which is like the brake lathe to fix the brake rotors and stuff. So let's sell everything. We're at 211, 468. Now we're at 213. We still gotta sell the old engine and the old wheels and tires. So 213. So we made about $2,000 off that. Let's take this car for a small little joyride. Why do they always park like this? Don't understand it. But let's hop in it. Take it for a quick little joyride down on the speed track. Let's see what she's got in her. Maybe then we'll bring it back here. We'll sell it. We'll get this video wrapped up. Whoa! Oh, I also got... Whoa, boy. I gotta show you guys. When we get back to the shop, I gotta show you guys a cool new alignment system. It's absolutely awesome. But, return to garage. This thing just spins when you hit the gas. Absolutely crazy. But we have run out of time for this video. So, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. Let's see how much we get for this car. And I will see you all in the next video. 80,000. Crazy numbers for this thing. But thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. Comment what you'd like to see next. Have a good guys.